What's up, good people? Welcome back to another episode of Undrafted Views. We're here. We talk sports from the sidelines, and today we're going to talk about the Brooklyn Nets and give some of our observations for their season so far. Let's get into it.
The Brooklyn Nets are currently number 6 in the Eastern Conference with a record of 29-20, having lost 4 straight games against the Timberwolves, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Denver Nuggets, and recently the Golden State Warriors. What has been your observation so far?
The Nets will not make it out of round one with this current roster construction. It's just not going to happen, especially
Mm.
if Kyrie is part time, James Harden is in and out of the lineup, and KD can't hold it down by himself once he comes back. It ain't gonna happen. I don't see it. And I had hope. They were my prohibitive favorites from the East to come out of
Mhm.
the East for this season, based off of the hype of the big three, of the individual play making that each one of the big three can do. And unfortunately, I haven't seen it all come together one way or the other. Their fault, no fault, anybody's fault. I don't really care. They just haven't been they haven't been consistently able to play. And because of that, it has now dropped them from number one all the way to six. It is wow.
Yeah, but when you think about the Eastern Conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Teams 1 through 6, they're only like what, maybe 2 games behind. I mean, it's a tight race in the
It
Eastern
is.
Conference, but I think one of my biggest observations is it's nice to have Kyrie on the court. I like what he's doing. He's crafty. He can get to the bucket. Ain't nobody stop Kyrie. But if it's only Kyrie, they're not winning anything. They're not gonna win.
Nah, no, I have to agree with you on that. The part-time play of Kyrie Irving, as I mentioned in previous games, and one of the reasons why I was like, either he's gonna play or he's not gonna play, is because it is a disruption. It's a disruption to their scheme, their operation. I don't think it's working. I don't think it's working. Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, Kyrie is a beast,
Ooh, yeah.
but that ain't enough. It's just not enough,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
So the last 4 games that they've lost, right?
Mhm,
They were able to have Kyrie for 2 of them. The
mhm.
one against the Timberwolves and also the most recent game against the Golden State Warriors. Now, James Harden is currently suffering from what, some kind of hamstring injury
Mhm.
right now. It
Yeah.
just seems me vibes of last season where he missed a good chunk of time. I just don't know about this Brooklyn Nets team. James Harden now, there's rumors that maybe
Mhm.
he's tired of the Kyrie's part-time play and he's encouraging Kyrie to maybe, make some changes in terms of his vaccination stance, especially with Kevin Durant having his MCL injury a
Right.
couple of weeks out trying to rehab that. The Nets are in deep trouble if they slide down to the play-in tournament.
And if the teams that are currently 7 through 10 go on a run, it's a done deal. It's going to happen. I foresee if something doesn't change mid-season on the Brooklyn Nets roster, which is another observation, they will need to make some adjustments to their roster because of the inconsistencies in playing time from Kyrie, KD, and James Harden. They'll have
Mhm.
to make some type of adjustments. I don't know what adjustments they need to make, but they do need to make some adjustments if they expect to maintain a slot between 1 through 6 as the season ends. I just
Well, one thing is for sure. If KD, Kyrie, and Harden all play, I think it is over for the Eastern Conference. The Chicago Bulls, the Milwaukee Bucks have
I'm okay with
no
that.
chance if the Brooklyn Nets are able to get their big three consistently, night after night, playoff game after playoff game.
Hmm.
It's over for the East.
I support that. I support that. Unfortunately, we haven't seen it.
No.
Herein lies the problem, right? So, yeah, on paper, what we anticipate, what we are seeking to see as fans, all of that. Yes. Hence is why I was like, oh, the Nets got it in the bag.
Hmm.
But when we gonna see it? Can y'all come out of the bag? I mean, like when we gonna see it? Like until we see it, all of this rhetoric is just that rhetoric. It doesn't really mean anything. It's not producing the results that we're all anticipating. So yeah, and I don't see that happening. one way or the other, Kyrie is not going to be in the lineup. One way or the other, James Harden, hopefully his hamstring injury again won't reoccur. One way or the other, we hope that KD comes back in full strength, right? If he doesn't, if they don't, it's a wrap based off of the other teams that are actually doing well in the East. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no,
And and the player that's affected the most, and he probably won't say it, he's a consummate professional, is Patty Mills. I feel terrible for him. He's in and out of the lineup. His production has slipped because of it. I don't know what Steve Nash is going to do or what bodies they intend to bring in during the
mm-hmm.
mid-season trade deadline, but they got to figure out what to do with Patty Mills.
You know what though? I have a. It's funny because one of my observations is that Patty Mills actually is doing what he came over to do. He had to extend his role though because he was supposed to be coming off the bench, right? So now he's in the starting lineup. But what else do they expect from him when he wasn't brought over to have him be the main source in their number one option? That wasn't why he was brought over, right? He was brought over to help supplement the big three when they happen to step off the floor, and then he goes in from the second unit. Well, whatever scheme that was that they thought Patty Mills was going to be playing, he's playing something totally different now. And considering what he's been thrown in to do, he is doing the best that he can. And I have him like he's doing at least that. At least he has that. Really, one constant that they do have on their roster is Patty Mills.
Yeah,
He
he's
may
about
have
it.
slipped. He may have slipped in whatever, and that's fine. But who else is going to do it? Because if he not, at least you can hopefully cross your fingers and he can do, kind of save reduce a deficit because he hits a three. But I'm just like, so it's Harden, Patty Mills, Kyrie, Patty Mills, KD, Patty Mills. Who's the constant? Patty Mills. And so let's give him his praise. At least he has been consistent on their roster. And he
Mm-hmm.
is consistent in their play. Now, of course, he may have those games where he cannot get double digits, and that's fine. Everybody does that. But he has been the most consistent for me on their roster, and they have been the most reliable, at least, to show up than the other players on the team. So,
Thank goodness for Cam Thomas, their rookie off the bench. I mean, Cam has been a shining star, but
mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, there is very little production. When you talk about Blake Griffin, a couple
LA,
DNPs, yeah, LaMarcus Aldridge, Bruce Brown. What happened to Bruce Brown?
I don't think it's the players. I think it's the coach.
Oh, okay.
I think it's the coach in this regard. He was supposed to coach the big three. He was not brought in to coach the other players. And I think, and we said it when they when they acquired all three of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you go back to one of our old videos before last season, we were like, well, he ain't gonna be Coach Nash, not gonna be the coach anyway. And
Yeah.
guess what? Because he's not coaching. I mean, and I'm not, and I say Coach Nash, but I know it's him and the coaching staff, right? I just think that they were not anticipating to have to try to coach, come up with a scheme, come up with a strategy to win games off of a roster that does not contain the big three. And here we are
Mm-hmm.
again, season 2, when the big three still
Yeah.
hasn't played together. And now the other players that they brought in to support the big three, it's not enough. And they're missing Joe Harris. So like they're big 3+1. Like I just
Yeah, Joe Harris had a little setback, so we can't
mm-hmm,
expect him back anytime
mm-mm,
soon.
mm-mm.
And LaMarcus Aldridge, I think he twisted his ankle pretty bad. He was
I
seen
think he
left leaving the
did.
arena on crutches, so he's out. And he's an
And
old vet.
yeah, and when it happened, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. During the game, I know. So here we are, and the older you get, from what I hear, the longer the recovery. So I just think that I just don't know, and I don't they don't have enough. They don't have enough. And I'm not saying these players individually will not be great in other organizations on other rosters. Just this roster, as it's constructed, it wasn't built for them to be successful with other players. It was only built for them to be successful with the big three. That's what I think,
Hmm.
and it
Yeah,
hasn't come
and
to
the
pass.
roster is top heavy. All the salary goes to those guys. So who can you really get as complimentary players for pennies on the dollar, essentially?
You have them, and they're not showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Who are they? LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake
Blake
Griffin.
Griffin.
Right.
Yeah.
You should have kept Uncle Green. I'm just saying. So here we are now with a team that, for me, is a little disappointing that they are sliding in the standings in the East. And my hopes is that they would be top 3. So that's disappointing, right? And I know that they can turn it around. I don't doubt that. It just takes another team to go through, a major crisis in their roster, and anything can happen. I understand that. But as I
Mhm.
speak right now, it's like, oh man, y'all may be in a playing tournament.
I know.
I
Hey.
can't. I did not see it. Oh, I did not see it. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So right now the Nets have played 49 games. They have 32 left. There's still a ton of time. I mean,
Mhm.
I think if KD can come back healthy, I think they could win at least 20, 25 of those games. So let's get into the next 5 games for the Brooklyn Nets. They play against the Phoenix Suns, the Sacramento Kings, Utah Jazz, Denver Nuggets, and the Boston Celtics. The only game that Kyrie will miss, I mean, barring any injury, of
Yeah.
course, is the
Hmm.
game against the Boston Celtics. How do you have the Nets in this next stretch?
Unfortunately, I have them going 2-3.
Mm.
I have them only winning 2 games, and that will be against the Kings and the Jazz. I don't see them
Oh,
beating the Suns. I don't see them beating the Nuggets, and I don't see them beating the Celtics.
the Celtics.
The Celtics, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. I have them going 3-2. I have them losing to the Phoenix Suns, of course. I
Of
mean,
course.
can anybody beat the Phoenix Suns these days?
Apparently not.
Yeah, and I also have them losing against the Denver Nuggets because Jokic gonna do work in the paint, and the Nets,
No paint.
they
No.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
yeah.
Mm-mm. And not, yeah. That's another observation. I just don't know who controls their paint. So, yeah, you can't have Joker all up and through and think you're gonna have somebody defend that. I just don't see it. That's another observation I think that's missing from their roster, because I'm quite sure they were expecting to get that production from LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin,
Mhm,
and it just
mhm.
is not happening. And you know what? Also, Paul Millsap said, and they said, no problem. He's not.
Yeah. Paul
I'm
Millsap was
just like,
supposed to be Uncle Jeff Green.
didn't happen. Didn't happen. He got over there. See, this is what I'm talking about. Y'all need to stop going to these teams and y'all getting on the bandwagon,
Yeah,
i.e. Lakers. You think you're getting on the bandwagon, and you're not.
and
And
you
the
not.
team ain't doing nothing. They're not able to protect, they're not able to sustain wins. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. Just the Paul Millsap blew me out the water. I said, oh.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Okay.
I'm still holding strong that the Nets will be able to pull it together. I mean, they have, again, they have the big 3. Like, if they remotely come back healthy, I think that even if it was the last 15 games of the season, they can win the last 15 games, still keep them in contention in the top 1 through 6 seed in the East. So, yes, although they have holes right now, they have gaps. Some of that is something that it's out of their control, right? What is in their control is who they have on their roster right now and how they're being coached. So it's not impossible to have your top players out of the rotation and still not win games, because other teams are able to do it. So injuries happen; they have been happening, and
Mhm.
all teams have been suffering from that. And because of that, sometimes that can be a benefit to a team or a hindrance. And it just depends on how the chemistry is on the roster, how the coaches tend to play them, and who they have on their roster that has the skills to pay the bills. And so, you know, it's still
Yeah.
possible. Of course, I am still hopeful that the Nets will maintain a 1 through 6 seed by the time the season ends, because to see them in a play-in tournament would be a total disappointment.
Big time.
And it will be more on their front office and the roster construction that they put together, right? So,
All right, you guys, we're going to wrap up this episode on the Brooklyn Nets. Make sure you drop down in the comments and let us know what you think about this. And where do you see the Brooklyn Nets ending up at the end of the season? Do you see them in the play-in tournament, or will they hold on to their 1 through 6 spot? Thank you all for watching. We will see you guys on the next one. But until then,
peace.
ciao.